My coworker stole my client roster and told everyone. She's too soft to close deals. Watch me double her numbers in a month. I quietly shifted my accounts elsewhere like he bragged I wouldn't dare. 2 weeks later he stormed into my office, red-faced, yelling, "Why won't anyone take my calls?" As I handed him a calendar marked client termination dates, he finally realized they'd all followed me to my new job. I was in my 6th year at the company, a software firm in San Diego, handling mid-sized tech clients, building relationships, keeping them happy. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I had a way of working, steady, calm, consistent. My clients liked me because I treated them like people, not deals. They trusted me, and I never let them down. Then Mark showed up. Mark was the exact opposite. Loud, pushy, always talking like he was the king of the sales floor. He dressed sharp, slicked his hair back like a car salesman, and spent most of his time bragging. He told anyone who would listen that he could sell ice to an Eskimo, that closing was all about pressure, charm, and confidence. He'd brag in meetings. "I can close anyone anytime. You just have to know how to push." I ignored him at first. He was all talk. I figured he'd crash and burn eventually, like most guys like him. But Mark had his eyes on me. He'd make comments during team calls, looking right at me. "Some people are too soft. They babysit clients instead of pushing them. That's why they don't grow." I kept my mouth shut. I wasn't about to play his game. But then I overheard him in the break room, running his mouth to another rep. "I'm taking all her accounts. She's too soft to close deals. Watch me double her numbers in a month." That hit me like a punch in the gut. It wasn't long before I saw the emails, the calendar invites. Mark was reaching out to my clients, telling them he was stepping in to help them. Acting like I couldn't handle it. He even left a note on my desk, bold as hell. "Don't worry, I'll take care of them for you. It's for the best." I felt sick. I went to Frank, our manager, and laid it out for him. I showed him the emails, the calls, everything. Frank shrugged. He actually told me, "Maybe Mark's just more aggressive. Let's not make a big deal out of it." That's when it hit me. No one was going to help me. Mark thought I wouldn't fight back. That I'd just sit there and watch him steal everything I built. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I didn't say a word to him after that. I kept my head down. Let him think I was too soft. But inside I was planning. I made a list of every client I had, names, contracts, renewal dates, the whole picture. I started calling them, one by one. I told them the truth. I didn't badmouth Mark or the company. I just let them know I might be leaving soon, and I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. Almost all of them said the same thing. "We're here because of you. If you leave, we'll leave." That gave me the push I needed. I found a smaller company in the area, one that was willing to let me bring my clients over. They were excited to have me, and I knew it was the right move. I spent the next 2 weeks quietly moving every piece of the puzzle into place. Every contract lined up, every account ready to flip. I had it all mapped out, termination dates in red, transfer dates in blue. Meanwhile, Mark kept strutting around, telling people he was crushing it. He even walked by my desk once and smirked. "Hope you're ready to step aside." I just smiled. Then the day came. I handed in my notice. 2 weeks. That was it. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say a word to Mark. That first week after my notice, I watched him from my office. The calls started. I could see the panic on his face. He'd dial, leave a message, hang up, try again. Clients wouldn't respond. They wouldn't answer his emails. I heard him muttering under his breath, slamming his phone down on his desk. Then the questions started. He came into my office once, looking pale. "Hey, have you heard from X? They're not returning my calls." I looked at him, calm as ever, and just said, "No, I haven't." He left, looking confused. It kept happening. Every day, more silence. Then, one morning, I was at my desk when I heard the sound of his voice, loud, angry, desperate. "Why won't anyone take my calls? What the hell is going on?" He stormed into my office, red-faced, veins bulging in his neck. "Why won't they talk to me? What did you do?" I didn't flinch. I slid the calendar across my desk, the one with all the client termination dates marked in red. He stared at it, not understanding. Then his eyes widened. I said, quiet and calm, "They followed me." His hands trembled. His mouth opened like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I sat back in my chair and watched the panic set in. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Mark's eyes were wide, locked on the calendar. His breathing turned shallow, almost like he couldn't catch his breath. I could see his fingers twitching, gripping the edge of my desk like it was the only thing holding him up. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I just sat there, calm, watching him unravel. Then he snapped. "You can't do this!" he yelled, voice cracking, spitting the words out like venom. "You can't just take them all." I kept my voice low, steady. "I didn't take anyone. They left because they didn't want to work with you." His face twisted, red as a stop sign. He started pacing my office, hands on his hips, muttering to himself. Then he turned back to me, jabbing a finger in the air. "This isn't over. You think you're smart? Frank's going to hear about this. You're finished." I shrugged. "I'm already gone, Mark. My last day's Friday. What are you going to do? Tell Frank I did my job too well?" He just stood there, chest heaving. I could tell he wanted to say something, do something, but there was nothing left for him to grab onto. And that's when Frank walked in. Frank looked at Mark, then at me. "What's going on in here?" Mark spun around, full of rage, and started ranting. "She sabotaged me. She stole all my clients. She's screwing us over." Frank raised a hand. "Whoa, slow down. What's he talking about?" he asked, turning to me. I kept it simple. "I gave notice 2 weeks ago. The clients knew I was leaving. They chose to follow me. I didn't break any rules." Mark tried to interrupt, but Frank stopped him. "Hold on," Frank said, narrowing his eyes. "They followed you?" I nodded. "Yes. All of them." Mark lost it. "You're just going to let her get away with this? She's killing the whole pipeline." Frank looked at me for a long moment. Then he looked at Mark. "Mark, you said you could double her numbers in a month, right? Looks like you couldn't even keep her clients for 2 weeks. Mark's face went pale. Then Frank added, "You told me you could handle her accounts, that she wasn't aggressive enough. So, what happened?" Mark stood there, stunned, speechless. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Frank sighed, rubbed his forehead. "We'll talk later. Both of you out." Mark stormed out first, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. I walked out after him, feeling the weight of the moment settle. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next day, I started getting LinkedIn messages from other reps at the company. Quiet messages like, "Hey, I heard what happened. Can you tell me more about where you're going?" Or, "Mark's been telling people you stole clients. What's the real story?" I ignored most of them. Let them wonder. Let them stew. But then I got a message that made my stomach drop. It was from one of my old clients, someone big, someone important. They said Mark had tried to poach their business again, offering a steep discount behind my back. He was telling them I'd dropped the ball, and that they'd made a mistake following me. That's when I realized Mark wasn't done. He wasn't just licking his wounds, he was going on the attack. He was trying to destroy my reputation, poison the well, and drag me down with him. And I wasn't about to let that happen. The message from my client made my stomach twist into knots. Mark wasn't just angry, he was out for blood. I called the client back right away. "Listen," I said, keeping my voice steady. I need you to tell me exactly what he said. The client sighed, like he didn't even want to get involved, but he told me anyway. Mark called yesterday, he said. Said you were unstable. Said you'd left because you couldn't handle the pressure. That you were in over your head, and you'd mess up their account if they stuck with you. I felt the heat rise in my face. He said that? Yeah. He also offered us a huge discount to stay. I sat there for a second, stunned. Mark wasn't just trying to salvage the accounts, he was trying to ruin me. I thanked the client for telling me and hung up. Then I got to work. I pulled up every client email, every message, every contract. I called every single client I had brought over to the new company and laid it all out. I told them straight. Mark's calling around, telling people I'm unstable, that I can't handle the pressure, that I'll mess up your account. He's offering deep discounts to try and get you back. I'm telling you the truth because I respect you. I'm not going to badmouth him, I just want you to know what's happening so you can make the right call. Some of them were angry. Really angry. One of them said, "That's disgusting. We'll never go back to that company. Ever." Another said, "Let him try. We've got your back." It felt good, but it wasn't enough. I knew Mark wouldn't stop unless I made him stop. So I started digging. I went back through old emails, contracts, notes. I found something I had forgotten. Mark had been sloppy. Real sloppy. 6 months earlier, he'd sent an email to a client promising a custom feature our company didn't even offer, just to close the deal. The client had asked for it multiple times, and Mark had kept dodging. They were still waiting. Another account, Mark had promised a discount that never got approved. The client was furious, and I had the email chain to prove it. It wasn't just one mistake. It was a pattern, Mark making promises he couldn't keep, just to get the deal, then ghosting the clients when they asked questions. I put it all together in a file, screenshots, email chains, client names. I sent it to Frank. "Just so you know," I wrote, "Mark's been doing this for a while. Might want to look into it." I didn't hear back. But I did hear from another old coworker a few days later. Mark had been called into HR for a formal review. Turns out, some of the clients Mark had tried to poach called the company directly, complaining about his lies, about his offers, about the things he promised that never happened. Frank was in hot water too. Because when Mark started making big promises, Frank had backed him without asking questions. I heard through the grapevine that the regional VP had gotten involved. And that wasn't the only thing. That same week, I got a call from a new client at my new company. Someone I'd never worked with before. They told me Mark had reached out to them personally, trying to badmouth me and my new firm, saying we were shady and not stable. I couldn't believe it. Mark wasn't just coming after me. He was trying to poison my future, too. It was clear, he wasn't going to stop until I was buried. And if he wanted a war, I was ready to give him one. After I heard about Mark trying to poison my name to new clients at my new company, something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let him take me down quietly. I went to my new boss, Greg, and laid it all out. I showed him the emails, the calls, the messages from clients. I told him how Mark had been contacting them directly, making up lies, trying to ruin my name and our company's reputation. Greg listened quietly. He didn't say much, but I could see the anger building on his face. When I finished, he looked at me and said, "This guy's a snake. Let me handle it." I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. A week later, I got a LinkedIn message from another old coworker back at the old firm. "You need to know. Mark's telling everyone you stole proprietary data when you left. He's saying you took the client list, the pricing sheets, everything. HR is investigating you." My stomach dropped. That was a serious accusation. If they could make it stick, it could ruin my entire career. I called my lawyer. He told me to stay calm, but he was blunt. "If they're trying to say you stole company data, you need to get ahead of this. Do you have proof that you didn't take anything? I did. Before I left, I had wiped my work laptop clean, per HR's instructions. I'd saved nothing, took no files. The client list? That was built from relationships. My clients weren't bound by the company. They had chosen to follow me. That wasn't theft, that was loyalty. Still, I wasn't taking chances. I wrote a formal letter to the old company's HR department, copying in the legal team. I laid out the facts, I left per policy, gave 2 weeks' notice, and turned in all equipment. I took no company files, no data, no confidential materials. Any clients who left did so on their own. I attached the exit paperwork they gave me, signed, dated. I had proof. But Mark didn't stop. Word got back to me that he was still talking trash in the office, telling people I was going to get sued, that I'd end up blacklisted, that I was a thief, and a snake. He told people my new company was about to go under, that I'd dragged all my clients into a sinking ship. I couldn't believe how far he was willing to go. And then came the final twist. A client I had never even worked with at the old firm called me, completely out of the blue. They said Mark had reached out to them, claiming he was working on a side project, and offering them a personal discount to sign a deal under the table. He told them not to tell anyone, especially not the company. That was a huge violation. I told Greg. He sat back in his chair, took a long breath, and said, "We're going to bury this guy." We weren't just dealing with a sleazy salesman anymore. We were looking at fraud. Greg said he was going to bring in legal. He wanted a paper trail, every detail. Meanwhile, I kept hearing from old coworkers at the old firm. Mark was getting sloppy, paranoid, even. He was snapping at people in meetings, blaming others when deals fell through, accusing people of sabotaging him. The last I heard, Frank had been called into the regional office for a second review, because leadership wanted to know why half the major clients had walked out the door, and why the guy he vouched for was suddenly at the center of a legal mess. And me? I wasn't backing down. I had my clients, my lawyer, and my new company behind me. Mark could throw every punch he wanted. I was ready for all of it. Because I knew something Mark didn't. You can't cheat your way to the top when you've burned every bridge in your path. A few weeks later, it all blew up. Greg called me into his office. He looked serious, but there was a glint in his eye like he had something big to tell me. "Sit down," he said. I sat. He slid a folder across the desk. "It's done." Inside was a copy of a formal legal complaint. Our company's lawyers had filed it against Mark and my old company. Turns out, Greg had been collecting everything. Emails, calls, client statements, even recorded voicemails where Mark tried to undercut deals, badmouth our company, and offer side discounts under the table. But it got worse. One client, let's call him Dave, had a recording of Mark explicitly asking for a kickback in exchange for a better deal. Mark had been trying to personally profit off the clients I brought with me. He wasn't just stealing business, he was running his own side hustle, using company resources to line his pockets. Greg's lawyers sent a cease and desist to my old company, demanding they stop the smear campaign and investigate Mark immediately. They also included a demand letter, $2.5 million in damages for defamation, client interference, and business losses. The fallout was brutal. Frank got fired the next day. Word was, corporate flew down from San Francisco and escorted him out of the building. His whole "let Mark run the show" strategy had blown up in his face. As for Mark, he didn't just get fired. They dragged him into a full legal mess. The clients he tried to poach? They all filed complaints. The company did an internal audit and found more shady deals. Mark had been cooking the books, inflating numbers, lying about renewals. They fired him on the spot, no severance, no references, and a letter stating he was terminated for unethical and potentially criminal conduct. The best part? Greg's legal team made sure to send that letter to every client, Every vendor, every single person Mark had tried to poison against me. It was like a public execution. I heard through the grapevine that Mark tried to get a new job at another software firm, but the second they called for references, they got the story. He's blacklisted now, burned in the industry. And Frank? He tried to sue for wrongful termination, but the company countersued, blaming him for negligence and mismanagement. He lost. Badly. As for me? I'll be honest, this whole thing took a toll. I lost sleep, I doubted myself, I was angry. I even considered giving up and walking away. But I didn't. And it paid off. Not only did I keep every client I brought over, but they started referring me to new clients. They told people, "She's the real deal. She stood up for us when no one else would." My new company gave me a raise, a title bump, and a bigger office. Greg told me I had proven myself in a way he'd never seen before. I even got a little bonus check in the mail, nothing crazy, but enough to remind me it was all worth it. Looking back, I can see where I went wrong. I should have fought back sooner. I let Mark push me around too long because I thought I had to be the bigger person. I thought keeping my head down was the smart move. It wasn't. The truth is, sometimes you have to fight for what's yours. You have to make it crystal clear that no one can take what you've built, because if you don't, someone like Mark will try. And they'll think they can get away with it. Not on my watch. Mark thought I was too soft to close deals. Turns out, I was just playing the long game. And in the end, I buried him with it.